Wednesday's episode of Days of Our Lives doesn't explode with action. There are no sirens, no dramatic rescues, no shocking confessions. Instead, this episode does something far more dangerous. It lets the emotional damage settle. Because while Salem appears calm on the surface, every major relationship fractures just a little bit more, and some of those cracks may never fully heal. Today, we're breaking down 4 pivotal storylines. This is Days of Our Lives on slow burn mode. And slow burns always lead to something devastating. The episode opens with Marlena Evans in a state viewers know all too well. Not panic, not fear, but quiet devastation. Marlena isn't running. She isn't fixing. She isn't giving advice. She's sitting with something far heavier. Guilt. Rachel's fragile condition has become a constant echo in Marlena's mind, a reminder of every moment she wonders if she could have acted sooner, spoken louder, or intervened differently. The question that haunts her is simple, but brutal. Did I fail my granddaughter? This is where Belle Black steps in, not as a daughter seeking comfort, but as a voice of clarity. Belle immediately recognizes the warning signs. Marlena isn't just upset. She's internalizing blame, and Belle refuses to let that spiral continue. Instead of dismissing Marlena's guilt, Belle does something far more effective. She validates it, and then challenges it. Belle reminds her mother of a truth Marlena is too deep in self-reproach to see. Brady is hurt. Brady is angry. Brady is struggling. But none of that means he has stopped loving his mother. In fact, Belle argues that Brady's anger comes from pain, not rejection. And that matters, because Marlena has a long history of punishing herself through silence, believing that withdrawing is the responsible thing to do. Belle calls that pattern out. She reminds Marlena that in the Black family, silence has never healed wounds. It has only deepened them. This conversation represents a subtle but important shift. For the first time, Marlena is being asked to stop carrying everyone's pain alone. Belle reframes responsibility. Feeling guilt doesn't mean accepting blame. And then comes the most important line, the one viewers shouldn't overlook. Belle does not tell Marlena that Brady has forgiven her. She says, "He will." That distinction changes everything. Forgiveness is possible. Forgiveness is coming. But it hasn't arrived yet. And that uncertainty forces Marlena into a crossroads. Continue punishing herself, or stay emotionally present long enough to be forgiven. The danger, as this scene quietly suggests, is that guilt left unchecked doesn't lead to redemption. It leads to isolation. And isolation is its own kind of prison. Elsewhere in Salem, tension simmers, not loudly, but relentlessly. Xander Kyriakis learns that Brady Black has moved into the Kyriakis mansion, and the reaction is immediate. Not rage, not confrontation, but something colder. Suspicion. Xander begins asking questions. Why Brady? Why now? And more importantly, what does this mean for Sarah? When Xander approaches Sarah Horton, his tone sounds almost reasonable, concerned, curious. But beneath that surface lies something far more dangerous. A sense of entitlement he no longer has the right to claim. Sarah doesn't respond emotionally. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't defend herself. Instead, she does something that destabilizes Xander completely. She stays grounded. Sarah calmly reminds him that she is allowed to move forward. She is allowed to make decisions without explanation, and she no longer needs permission from the man who once hurt her, no matter how complicated their past may be. That boundary is what rattles Xander the most, because his jealousy isn't fueled by love alone. It's fueled by displacement. Xander is watching someone else step into a role he once occupied, not as a romantic replacement, but as an emotional presence in Sarah's life. And he can't control that. That loss of control awakens every unresolved feeling he has tried to bury: regret, insecurity, fear. The scene is quiet, but it's deeply unsettling, because Xander doesn't lash out. He absorbs it. And jealousy that is absorbed rather than expressed doesn't fade. It waits. It sharpens. And in Salem, emotions left unspoken rarely stay harmless for long. The emotional heart of Wednesday's episode belongs entirely to Rachel Black. When Rachel learns that she will not be leaving Bayview for Christmas, the reaction is immediate and devastating. This isn't disappointment. It's collapse. Rachel doesn't simply cry or protest. She shuts down. To an adult, missing Christmas might feel temporary. To a child already struggling with trauma, it feels permanent. It confirms every fear Rachel has been carrying: that she is different, that she is unstable, that she is the reason life keeps stopping for everyone else. And worst of all, that she is being left behind. Rachel's breakdown isn't about decorations or presents. It's about belonging, about watching the world move forward while she remains stuck in a place that reminds her every day that something is wrong with her. Brady and Tate respond exactly as they should. They don't argue with her feelings. They don't try to fix them. They sit with her. They reassure her that she is loved, that she isn't being abandoned, that this isn't a punishment. But something about Rachel's reaction feels heavier than grief. It feels like despair. Her fear isn't loud, it's inward. And that's what makes it dangerous, because despair isolates, and isolation is where emotional influence takes root. The episode doesn't show Sophia Choi in this moment, but viewers don't need to see her to feel her presence. Sophia represents the kind of comfort that doesn't challenge fear. It validates it. And Rachel, in this fragile state, is especially vulnerable to anyone who tells her she's right to feel misunderstood, right to feel wronged, right to distrust the adults who are keeping her locked away. This storyline is not about a child missing a holiday. It's about a child losing emotional stability. And once that foundation cracks, the damage doesn't stay contained. It spreads, quietly, unpredictably, and often tragically. While Rachel's pain unfolds in isolation, chaos erupts underground. Inside the DiMera crypt, unresolved history finally explodes into open confrontation. Kristen DiMera comes face to face with E.J. DiMera, and there is no restraint left. She doesn't circle the issue. She doesn't test the waters. She accuses him outright. Kristen blames E.J. for triggering Rachel's traumatic memories, for pushing her daughter into psychological collapse, for being the reason Rachel is now locked inside Bayview. Her anger is not strategic. It's maternal, raw, desperate, unfiltered by reason. E.J. denies responsibility, but denial means nothing here. Because this confrontation isn't about evidence, It's about emotional fallout. Kristen needs someone to blame, and EJ embodies everything she fears. Power without accountability. Control without consequence. The argument escalates rapidly. Voices rise. Old resentments surface, and the weight of decades of DiMera betrayal fills the air. For a moment, it looks like the argument will turn violent, and that moment matters. Because DiMera conflicts don't end with words. They end with bodies. Chad DiMera steps in, not as a referee, but as a survivor of this family's wars. He knows what happens when rage goes unchecked. He knows what history looks like repeating itself. This scene drives home a chilling truth. The crypt is no longer just a prison. It's a pressure cooker. Every buried grudge, every unresolved betrayal, every twisted family loyalty, they're all resurfacing at once. And the longer these DiMeras remain trapped together, the more inevitable it becomes that something, or someone, will break. Wednesday's episode of Days of Our Lives doesn't rely on spectacle. It relies on precision. There are no sudden twists meant to shock. Instead, the episode deliberately removes distractions, forcing every character to confront something far more uncomfortable: their lack of control. This hour strips the story down to raw emotional fundamentals: guilt, jealousy, fear, rage. And what makes these emotions so dangerous isn't their intensity. It's that none of the characters can contain them anymore. Marlena cannot force forgiveness from Brady, no matter how deeply she wants to fix the damage. Xander cannot reclaim authority over Sarah's life, even though his instincts demand it. Brady cannot shield Rachel from the psychological consequences of trauma, no matter how present he is. Kristen cannot undo the harm already inflicted on her daughter, no matter how fiercely she lashes out. Every storyline is about the same truth unfolding in different ways. Control is slipping. And in Salem, loss of control has never led to peace. It leads to escalation. This episode functions as a narrative pressure build. Not the explosion, but the tightening that makes the explosion inevitable. It's the moment before secrets surface, before emotions turn into actions, before regret becomes irreversible. And that's why this episode matters more than it initially appears. Because when Days of Our Lives goes quiet, it's never accidental. It's a warning. Wednesday, December 17th, doesn't give viewers closure. It gives them foreshadowing. Every conversation in this episode plants a seed, and none of them point toward calm resolution. Unspoken guilt remains unresolved. Unacknowledged jealousy grows sharper. Unprocessed trauma continues to fester. And longtime Days of Our Lives fans know exactly what that means. In Salem, emotions don't fade with time. They intensify. They distort judgment. They drive reckless decisions. They destroy relationships before anyone realizes what's happening. So the real question isn't what happened in today's episode. The real question is, what did today set in motion? Because the fallout won't arrive all at once. It will arrive piece by piece, through betrayal, confrontation, and irreversible choice. And when it does, it will change everything.